Hi, I'm Linda May, and I'm here today to talk to you about this new moon, this moon phase. And we're beginning with the new moon, which is on Sunday, June 14th at 7:54 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And then the full moon, which is on Monday, June 29th at 4:57 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So you can adjust your times accordingly. And all moon phases do begin with the new moon. So this is a new way of doing it that I'm doing. I'm doing both the new moon and the full moon in one video, and I'll be doing that going forward. And at the end, I'll just say now, I will probably, what I'll do is I also usually repost it the day before the new moon and the day before the full moon. So if you missed anything from watching it the first time, you can catch it during the next one. This also represents the end of one lunar cycle and the beginning of another. As I mentioned, this new moon is the beginning of the new moon phase. And astrologically, what that means is that both the sun and moon are in the same sign on the new moon. So on June 14th, they're both in the sign of Gemini. The new moon is usually a time of new beginnings, and this particular new moon brings in a sense of spontaneity and change. You may be more talkative and speak more at ease with others, as well as with a lot of harmony, which is actually really, really nice. This new moon also emphasizes a sense of curiosity and fresh perspectives. It's a good time to open yourself up to new ways of thinking. It's a great time to make connections with others, to spark conversations, and to bring forth a more outgoing version of your own self. And it's a wonderful time to just let those words flow. Aspect-wise, we do have quite a few. Just after the last full moon on May 31st, we saw Mercury squaring Neptune in Aries on June 4th. This stimulates and has stimulated a lot of imagination, so it is best to do, has been best to do artistic work or any sort of inner journey work. So that was, basically the week that just went by from when I'm recording this. Don't leave things unresolved. Then on June 9th, Venus and Jupiter are conjunct in Cancer, and this brings in a lot of luck and opportunities for beautiful, beautiful moments. So this is actually really great because, we have a week where we have to sort of don't leave things unresolved, right? And then the next week we have something that's bringing in all kinds of like good fortune and luck and all kinds of things like that. So it's really wonderful. But then the Saturn and the moon are conjunct on June 10th, and Saturn is usually what, has to do with your lessons. So it does actually give us a need to call in an inner reality check at that point. And especially, because of everything we're talking about, with the new moon coming and everything, this is like right before the new moon. So it is important to do a reality check. Then Venus moves into Leo on June 13th, which is just before the new moon. And that brings, and it also has an intense square to Chiron in Aries. And Chiron is sort of the wounded healer in a way, that's how he's known. So it does have to do with doing a little bit more inner work. Be mindful of how you deal with things that may come up. But luckily, Venus in Leo does give us a playful spirit and more creativity, so that's very helpful as you go through some of the more challenging moments. Be mindful as you balance those two energies at the same time. Then we move into the new moon, which is actually on the 14th, and that helps us to integrate any of the challenges that we may have arisen that we've just been thinking about and working on and things like that. And then just after the new moon on June 16th, Venus sextiles Uranus, and then on the 17th, they trine Neptune and then opposes Pluto. So that's a real interesting mix of aspects. It brings in inspirations, it brings in creativity, it also brings in intensity as well as possible power issues. So very interesting mix of all different things all coming at once. So do keep that in mind as we go forward. The sun in Cancer, the sun enters Cancer on June 21st, and that's the first day of summer. So it's the beginning of, the summer solstice is on June 21st, and I will be talking more about that as we go forward. And then on the 25th, we see Venus trine Saturn, and then on the 26th, the Sun square Pluto. So these also are, a little bit more challenging, but what it is it's a great time to listen to your own inner voice and to seek some stillness, to take time to just be with you, because often in this world we don't do that, and it is an important thing to do. But then on June 28th, Mars enters Gemini and sextiles Jupiter, which brings in a more sparkling, enterprising atmosphere, and you feel inspired to take on something new. So that's actually really great, and that's all part of that whole from the new moon to the full moon cycle. So these are the aspects just a little before and a little bit after. And then just before the full moon on June 29th, so this is the day after all that thing I just said about Gemini and Jupiter and all that. But just before the full moon on June 29th, which is when the moon goes full, Mercury goes retrograde. So as we know, that can confuse communications of any kind. It can be internet stuff, it can be phone conversations, it can be people misunderstanding what you say, it can be all kinds of communications. So do be aware of this. And Mercury will be retrograde until July 23rd, so pretty much almost a full month, which is also, a little longer than usual. But do be aware of that, if things come up, deal with them as best you can, and, be as gentle as you can, honestly. And check in. That's really important too, to check in, because your inner inspirations are usually a little bit more right on than what the outer world shows you. Now, this all moves us into the full strawberry moon. It's known as such due to the ripening of strawberries at this time of year by many of the indigenous tribes of the United States, actually, like the Algonquins and all different ones use that same reason for calling it the strawberry moon. It's also sometimes called the blooming moon because of all the blooms that are coming in, or the green corn moon because the corn is actually starting to grow. So that's all part of what happens in the summer. So it's kind of neat. Now, the full strawberry moon is on June 29th, as I mentioned, and it's just a little bit after when Mercury goes retrograde at 4:57 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And that's where we find the sun in Cancer and the moon is opposing the sun in Capricorn. It's an opportunity, and because Cancer is, a little bit more emotional, and Capricorn is very much about structure and getting things done. So this is an opportunity to recalibrate your direction in life. Even though Mercury is retrograde, it's a time to pay more attention to responsibility, to your career, to the structures in your life. What's working, what needs more discipline, what needs a more solid foundation are all things to consider during this full moon. You may be feeling a lack of self-worth, so do remember not to seek approval from without, but work with your own inner self and trust your own inner values. Like I was saying earlier, oftentimes our inner inspirations will tell us what we need more than anything else. So do keep that in mind. Now, the moon enters Aquarius on the same day as the full moon at 12:33 p.m. Actually, that's the next day. And this brings in a higher way of looking at different things. Okay? Actually, no, it's the moon. Interesting. That's interesting. Okay, so on July 4th, the moon squares Mars. It's time to tune into your intuition and apply it for positive actions in the arts and or community. So it is a good time to do things. This is on July 4th when the moon squares Mars. And I'll be talking much more about the aspects after the full moon when I do the, because it's usually I do the aspects right before the new moon phase and then going forward. Okay, so this is just a summary of what's coming. Okay, so like I said, the moon enters Aquarius. This brings in a new higher way of looking at things. On July 4th, the moon squares Mars. So tune into your intuition and use that in a positive way for taking action in the arts and community. On July 8th, the moon squares Mercury, which actually is beneficial for you to take more of the lead in things and develop your own network and establish good connections with others. And all of that is actually really kind of good, considering that, Mercury is retrograde until July 23rd. So, but I will tell you more about that, as I mentioned before, when we do the next moon video, which will probably be a week before the new moon, which is on July 14th. That's the next new moon phase. Okay, so now we're moving into the season of the summer solstice, as I mentioned, which is exact on June 21st. And when the sun enters Cancer, that's the beginning of summer solstice. And it actually enters 1:24 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on June 21st. So that means it's a little bit earlier, a little bit, yeah. So it's like 4:24 on the East Coast. The summer solstice is the time of year when the light is at its maximum. It's the longest day of the year. So it's a time to really focus on bringing in the light, which is really, really a good idea to do always. But it's often celebrated, and I have done this myself in Druid festivals and things like that, with an all-night vigil and greeting the light at dawn. And basically, you know, it's actually almost like you feel it. It's an incredible feeling, and when you're surrounded with other people who are in the same vibe, it's just amazing. So it is the sun's most powerful day because it is the longest day of the year, and it's a time of expression, and it's also a time of finding the balance between the inner and the outer. It's a time of integration and balance. That's a lot of what it's about. And that's balancing, you know, the long time of the year with the shorter time of the year, that kind of thing. So it's this kind of integration of that. Now I'm going to do my card pulls that I usually do. The traditional Celtic tree calendar, which is based on the moon cycles with the new year beginning at Samhain, which is October 31st, has the tree for this period of the June moon cycle as hazel. Okay, and this is hazel. And this is associated with intuitive wisdom. So it's kind of like what I've said a few times. It actually is intuitive wisdom, creative expression, love for family and friends. So it in many ways fits into some of the other things that I've talked about aspect-wise and otherwise. So it is a time, it helps to bring in clarity and wisdom as well as a gratitude for the abundance of life. And that's from this deck here, the Celtic Tree Oracle. Okay. And now a card from this Druid Animal Oracle deck right here. This is the one I use the most when I do readings with people. Lately, I am not working at Crystal Magic anymore, Crystal Magic Psychic Center, but I still will do readings in my home or by phone. So, you know, if you ever are interested, let me know. And we could probably work something out. But anyway, these are the cards I'll be using. And the card for this period, we get, wow, the dragon, the fire dragon. This is a very powerful card. The fire dragon is the most powerful of all the dragons. And one of the things that this one has to do is basically mastery. It actually has to do with mastery. And it's basically saying that you can ignite other people into action. You're the type of person that can inspire others. You can be a team leader really easily and all that. And you know when to focus your attention and go get something done. And that's part of what this is saying. So this, I have a feeling that this is, you know, interesting that it came up as the Druid Animal card, given all the Gemini energy and everything that we were talking about earlier and communications and everything. But in some ways, this is a summary of everything I've been saying. So it really fits in many ways. And then we got this Druidcraft Tarot. I do a daily pull that I post online every day with one of these cards that I pull. So let's see what they have to say. Let's see. We get the Three of Cups. Now this is much more in alignment. The Three of Cups actually is really cool because it has to do with celebrating with friends. It has to do with giving or receiving gifts to others. It has to do with lively conversations, all of that kind of thing. So in many ways, it's a salute to friendship, which I think is, you know, a lot of the Gemini energy that we were talking about earlier with the new moon. So, you know, all of this is illustrated in this card too. So that's actually really cool. Now the Whispering Woods deck, which is a message from the trees. Usually very simple messages, but often very deep. This one's great. This one's joy, okay? Spread seeds of joy like a wildflower, and no doubt you will revel in the result. So what I love about this is, you know, to me, that's part of the celebration that we talked about with Three of Cups. You know, the joy, celebration, all that kind of stuff. So as we spread those seeds out into the world, they come back to us. And I believe that. Misty says hi. Can you hear her? So this new Sedona Spirit Wind, this Sedona Spirit Wind deck that I have, sacred sites in Sedona all have their own special meaning. And this deck has been put together for that purpose. And we get White Buffalo Woman. This is actually really great. White Buffalo Woman. To me, this is like one of the best cards in the whole deck, and I love it. And the message is, I am unified with Source beyond the temporal veil. And what this does is it reminds me of who we really are. You know, that we really are love and light. That's who we are. And this is sort of a reminder of that. So whatever else is going on in our lives, communications, everything, things that might go awry, things that are going well, all of that, this still applies. Unified with Source beyond this temporal veil that we live in now. That's excellent. Okay, and now finally, this Light Bearers deck. Angels coming to Earth to help awaken humanity. Let's see which one we get. Archangel Ariel. Archangel Ariel. And she says, do you not know that the universe will take care of your every need? This is a promise that was given before time began. All you need to do is believe and have faith in that promise. Do you not know that the universe will take care of your every need? This is a promise that was given before time began. All you need to do is believe and have faith in that promise. So that to me, again, is talking about going inside to your inner inspirations, as I had mentioned earlier. It's actually a really important thing to do. Oftentimes, what's on the other side is really who we are. That's who we are at our core. So as we bring that in, we're bringing that light in and we're sharing it with others. And as we do that, you know, it's actually making a difference for everybody. So that's a great thing to keep in mind during some of the ups and downs of this period. And I will be back before the new moon on July 14th to tell you more. And I want to wish you blessings of this June moon phase to you. And remember, you are always loved.